there everybody, it's markcrilley. I'm back with another video. This is number 8 in my ongoing series of topic videos in which I have a kind of virtual conversation with my viewers on a particular art-related topic. And this past Tuesday I uploaded a video asking the following question: how should art teachers grade their students? And I got some really wonderful responses, and we'll be diving into those in a minute. But I thought I would go ahead and get into the work at hand. Always like to get something done while I'm doing these videos, and this is an illustration that I'm inking for Mastering Manga 3. But I'm going to take a moment as I begin applying the ink to apologize in advance about the degree to which I have had to edit these comments down, sometimes very drastically, because people, would type like 7 paragraphs, and I love that. I'm honored that people put as much thought and time and consideration into the comments. But, just because of the way I'm doing this video, I really can't take those entire comments word for word the way they came in. I'm having sometimes to just pull 1 or 2 sentences out of them. So I apologize to those of you that I had to do that to. I'm going to begin the first comment here, number 1, and it launches into this whole thing about effort. This one from Lucky One. Effort. Purely how much effort was put into a work. That is the summary of how the grade from an art teacher should be determined. Just focus on how much effort was put into it. Now, this sort of launches into this topic, and it's sort of an interesting thing to consider, because I don't know if we could apply that standard to other types of classes. For example, calculus. If you are teaching calculus and you see a student who's just, putting forth incredible effort, and you know that they're working really, really hard, but then test time comes around, and out of 100 questions, they only get 30 right. And they do that repeatedly, test after test. You can't give that student an A. I don't think you are free as a teacher to give that student an A based on effort. Correct me if I'm wrong, teachers of calculus. But art is different, and maybe it should be different, and it's sort of an interesting thing to consider. Let's move on to the next one, because there's a number of these things relating to effort. Number 2, I believe that teachers should grade on the level of how hard the students work. However, there are people who don't have to work hard to get an insanely good drawing. And that comes from Anime Lapse. Now, the second part of that may be up to debate. Some people might say things appear to be effortless, but actually they worked really hard. It's sort of an interesting thing to consider. I do think that laziness and lack of effort kind of need to be discouraged or even punished by way of bad grades, right? So I think we can all agree on that. We shouldn't be giving an A to someone who seemingly didn't try at all and just gave up and is just watching TV at home instead of working on this assignment. But I think the more interesting thing to tackle is to what degree do you reward pure effort for someone who is turning in work that you cannot say is great work. I mean, it's all a matter of opinion anyway. That's the tricky thing in the world of modern art and postmodern art. You can make an argument on behalf of almost any drawing. And it's hard to say with conviction 100% of the time, this is not good. It all is going to come down to opinion in the end. But yeah, as you can see, it's sort of a can of worms once you start getting into this. But I find it fascinating. And here's a continuation of this topic about effort. And this comes from Candace Snow, who is, in fact, an art teacher. I'm really glad that I got some comments from art teachers. And she says, I grade hardest on the effort they put into it. As long as I see they are meeting the requirements in their personal best way possible, they get a good grade. However, if it is not their 100% effort, even if it looks pretty good, if I know they could have done better if they tried, I don't give them a good grade. So there you go. This is being put into action, this concept of effort versus lack of effort. And so Candace there says that if she sees a student who's just not trying, even if they do, put forth pretty good work, she won't give them a good grade. Now, I have personal experience in a way. I remember when I was in college and I had a professor of art who kind of said to me, Mark, you're at a level where you're going to get a good result. You can get a good result almost every time, and I'm here to kind of push you out of your comfort zone and make you work a little harder. And I was grateful for that, And I think it is important, especially at the higher levels, and we're going to talk about this later on. Part of the teacher's job is to push people and not just to say, everyone gets an A, or, well, you tried and everyone gets an A for effort. It really is a tricky thing, and I keep kind of falling down on different sides of the argument. This one, number 4, from Matthew Hobbs. The amount of effort you put into a piece does not make it good or bad. I have spent hours on images that I should have just left in the dust. And absolutely, I can agree with that. I have certainly struggled and put enormous effort into drawings that did not end up being good drawings. Sometimes they just need to be junked. It's just not working. I think musicians, songwriters could speak to this. You labor and labor at a song, and it's just not a good tune. It's just not coming. And then the next day, you wake up, and boom, the entire different song popped into your head, flowed out almost effortlessly, and it's way better than the one that you struggled with. So that's sort of an interesting thing. That being said, it's a slightly different thing from what teachers should be rewarding. You know what I mean? It is true that you may see a student working really hard and not getting a good result, but maybe they should still get a good grade because of the hard work and how hard they tried, because that is kind of a precursor to professional art creation. You need to demonstrate the ability to work hard. And that is almost independent of the final result. So, it is sort of a tricky, and I sort of like the fact that there's no cut and dried, simple answer to this. And in a minute, you'll see as we sort of pivot away from this. This one, number 5, from Sierra Theory. One cannot possibly take things such as beauty or effort into consideration when critiquing artwork, simply because these are subjective and opinion-based calculations, which wouldn't be fair to anyone. I thought this was interesting because, there's the claim here that you cannot consider effort at all. This flies absolutely in the face of what we just saw. Kind of claiming that that is subjective, the degree to which they put effort into it. And that's sort of interesting to me. I would have thought that you can kind of tell when someone is trying hard versus when they are not. But it is also subjective. So, interesting point of view there on that one. And certainly the first part of that about beauty, I would say absolutely yes, subjective, as we say, beauty in the eye of the beholder. But the idea that a student putting forth effort, that you can't grade on that because you are unable to perceive that accurately. Interesting. I suppose I'm sort of coming down on the side of teachers who say you can tell the difference between, good faith effort, let's say, and lack thereof. Let's move on to number 6 here from Matthew Evans. Art classes are almost always classes graded on effort and less so on skill proficiency. In my experience, that kind of system somewhat prevented me from pushing myself and getting better. Plot twist, right? This one kind of saying that rewarding effort over and over again without paying attention to the actual results, this person found it almost kind of damaging, that they thought that they would have preferred something that was based more on actual results, which of course becomes another can of worms. How do we determine good results versus bad results? But I thought that was interesting, and that sort of leads us towards the next series of comments, which I kind of grouped into what I would call the strict comments. The comments where the person is not saying, oh, if you try hard, you get a good grade. These people, I think, are coming at it from maybe a more old-fashioned, just what I call strict approach. Number 7, from The Stride. In my honest opinion, anybody who is taking an art class is kind of putting themselves out there as far as their work goes. For anybody who is fully capable, I feel it should be more accuracy-based, just like any other assignment. So this is sort of saying, look, if you're taking an art class, you should be ready to get a bad grade, and that's just part of it. You're putting yourself out there, and I thought that was sort of interesting. Again, in terms, it's always going to be a matter of opinion in the end, but I think we do start to get into the realm of people who value the strict, tough teacher who is not going to reward subpar work. And they're not trying to make it determined based on, well, they at least tried. I keep thinking of this movie that I saw, and I wonder if any of you have seen it, called Whiplash. It is really quite a powerful film about this incredibly strict jazz teacher of jazz music, and the student wants to be a great drummer, and this teacher, almost to a psychotic level, is just pushing him so hard and so psychologically brutal and almost abusive. But there is a certain, romance to the idea of the tough teacher. Take for example, a ballet teacher. I always imagine that ballet teachers, it's almost part of the job description. We need you to be tough. We need you to be hard. Push these students. Push them to be the very best that they can be, and that might mean, having them hurt a little along the way. Sort of interesting. That is not my instinct, I must say. I'm not, you can see I'm a pretty encouraging guy. I'm not a tough guy. I'm not like the drill sergeant kind of approach, but I am sort of intrigued by the possibility that for some people, that might be the best approach. They might need a tough teacher. Let's continue with this thought here from Junko XXX. I think teachers should grade the art a bit harshly since they want their art to improve. Yes, it does count to try, but sympathy won't work in the real world. I like that. Again, sort of continuing this idea of maybe it is better to have a tough teacher. I think it's really a tricky thing in terms of when we start to think about natural talent, natural ability. And for the student who maybe doesn't have natural ability, it's hard for them to sit and watch the sort of golden student who seemingly creates great work all the time without even trying that hard. It's hard for them to watch that person get rewarded with straight A's, and for them to get low grades no matter how hard they try, just because of, I hate to say lack of talent, because that seems like a real judgment thing, but they themselves maybe look at their work and say, this doesn't look good even to me, despite my greatest efforts. And it's tough. It's a tough thing to say. Do you want that person to be rewarded? Everyone wants effort to be rewarded, and yet there is this other point of view of sort of like, no, this is the real world. Maybe you are not good enough to do this professionally, and you need to learn that now, right? Again, not really my way of putting things. I tend to be a little gentler about these things, but I enjoy the back and forth of these different ways of talking about it. This one from, and I got to try to pronounce this, I'm going to say it's Naruto QWE Avatar. Hope I got that right. Let me know. Number 9. I think it depends on the art class. A basic beginner's art class where people just need credits should be graded less strictly than an AP honors level class. And I think this sort of maybe sums things up and maybe points a path toward compromise between these two positions. Maybe the beginning classes should be filled with encouragement, and then as you go higher up, towards, college level or whatever, they should become increasingly strict until, yes, maybe the teacher is giving you a cold, hard splash of reality and saying, look, this stuff is not good enough for you to do this professionally. You maybe need to re-examine your hopes and dreams in terms of pursuing this professionally. But, at that point, you probably are getting to the stage where you can be your own teacher and tell someone like that to go take a hike and say, no, I still believe in myself. I don't care about what your determination and your grades. You can toss them out the window. I'm gonna live my life the way I want to. You know what I mean? Let's move on to the next one, and I think, this is turning towards a slightly different topic here. From Ice Claw Dusk, number 10. If an art teacher gives a lesson about one-point perspective, with an assignment to create a room using one-point perspective in 1 week, they should grade only on our use of one-point perspective in the creation of our room. Not that Sally has 3 pieces of furniture versus my 4 pieces and a door, or Sally's use of full color and shading versus my flat gray tone. So this is sort of an interesting one. It's talking about narrowing the focus of the lesson and having the grade adhere only to that one aspect. So I thought that was interesting, and I did see that in different people's comments. A lot of these comments are sort of representative of a whole slew of comments that I saw. But it is true that, lessons in an art class very often do focus on one particular thing. And that maybe offers the teacher a path forward toward a grading system that relates only to that one thing. If it is perspective, did they get what was taught? Or does the final work, no matter how beautiful it is, not reflect good perspective or show that the person just didn't understand or refused to apply, maybe, what was taught in the lesson? Perspective is sort of interesting because it sort of does come, it's like a meeting of pathways between math and art, because perspective is sort of mathematically based, and you can almost sit there with a ruler and determine whether they did it right or wrong. So there are some, I guess, I talk about how art can't be judged the way that calculus can be. I think there are certain points in the art world where we can remove opinion. For example, hyperrealism. We can look at the object and then look at your rendering of the object and almost in a scientific way measure the degree to which it is absolutely 100% faithful to what we see in front of us. I think in that case the grading becomes a little easier. But that's not everything, right? I mean, there's going to be things where creativity, originality come into play, and that's when it becomes, I think, a lot trickier to make these judgments. Let's move on to number 11 here from D. Subufi. That is my guess on that one. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. In my graphic design drawing class, the teacher grades are based on how much the student evolved during the semester. Saw that again and again. This idea of improvement. The grade should be based on the degree to which you have improved. And that seems to be something that cuts across disciplines. Most improved. And you could put that in a music class. You could put that in any number of things. That you look at where the person began, and then see to what degree, almost competing with themselves, to what degree they improved, got better. Which sort of is bad news for the person who was really good to begin with and then doesn't really make a whole lot of progress. If you're going to hold true to that philosophy that it's all about improvement, I can see someone like that getting, a D or something, because you barely improved at all. And I wonder how all of you feel about that. If someone comes in doing amazing work and they come out of the class doing only very slightly better work, does that person deserve a really bad grade? Interesting. I'm not sure I know what determination to make on that. But I think even the people who said, it's about improvement, very few of them said that it's only about improvement and nothing else. It seems like you have to have a range of different criteria to judge these things by. Here we come to the cake is Sicily. I believe that's how that breaks down. Number 12, they shouldn't give grades. It's as simple as that. Art, music, dance, or sports aren't something you can grade accurately or grade at all. Now, this launches us into the very sort of drastic measure of people who reject the very concept of grades. There should be no grades. And I know in some, some schools, some sort of highly individualized schools, there are schools that don't have grades. Few and far between, I would imagine. But there is such a thing as classes that you don't get grades in. And these people, I'm sure, would be all in favor of that system. So I thought I wanted to get in here representative comments on that point of view, kind of rejecting the whole fundamental idea of grading art. Art should not be graded at all. Continuing with that point of view, we have number 13 from LTD Limited 1995. It should be more about here's what I like / noticed about it, here's where you seem weak, and less about a solid grade, in my opinion. Seems to me a lot of wisdom in that comment. That there are other ways of helping a student besides grading them. And the idea of saying that there are no grades in this class doesn't mean that there's no consequences for bad work or lack of effort. You can give them plenty of feedback based on what you perceive to be their, shortcomings and strengths as an artist. So I thought that was an interesting one. Again, and not rejecting grades, it should be more about this and less about grades. And so I liked the sort of nuance of that one. We are coming down to the last couple of comments here. This one from Lindsay, and I have to laugh as I try to pronounce this because I got 3 different choices here. I think it could be Leitner, or Leitner. Let me know, Lindsay, or if indeed I got it wrong on all 3 of those. But here we go. For a class that I had, the art teacher had each student put their piece on the wall with a brief description for everyone to see. Then fellow students would take post-it notes and critique the work. Afterwards, the teacher graded the work based on the opinions of the other students. I think it's the best way to get an unbiased grade on an art project. Interesting, and indeed I saw a lot of people referring to that idea of the group critique as a way of reaching a grade. One thing I wondered about is within this comment you have, afterwards the teacher graded the work based on the opinions of the other students. Based 100% on the opinions of the other students? I mean, that makes me sort of a little skeptical, and students can be mean and rough, and what if the teacher sees great beauty in something and then all of the students say, this is terrible? Surely we can all agree that the teacher should have the flexibility to say, no, I believe in my wisdom and experience that the fellow students are wrong in this case. This is good work, and you should be encouraged to continue in this vein. So, interesting. But yes, I think it can be helpful, and certainly, I took a poetry class years ago when I was in college, in which we were encouraged to critique one another's work. And I found that helpful. And if one opinion on your work is good, it is all that much more helpful to have 20 different opinions and hopefully a range of different thoughts. And, people generally try to be encouraging. I can certainly imagine sort of like reality TV shows, that one really difficult person who loves to tear everybody down. But interesting. Here we go, number 15. This is really the last of the comments pertaining to the topic, and it is this from Stetifier. More important than what grade you get given from an art teacher is the amount of feedback you get on your work. Having an art teacher like mine who never gave any feedback as to how to improve is really unhelpful. And again, it sort of comes down to that idea of that the grade is not what matters. It is the actual sort of conversation that the teacher has with the student telling them how they could improve, teaching them things, pointing out things in the work that could be done in a different way. And if this teacher, if there, I hate to think that there are such teachers, but if there are teachers who basically just sit back and give grades and never ever talk to the students in an individual way, indeed, I must say that that teacher is not doing their best work, and that a grade in isolation, without any, more detailed conversation, I don't know what that grade is doing really. Apart from making someone feel bad if it's a bad grade, or making them feel good if it's a good grade. Really, surely it should be about some, detailed communication. And I can say from personal experience, when I have had art teachers sit down with me and show me something, that's when the real teaching takes place. And at the end of the day, forget the grades. It's all about that. It's all about learning actual things from someone who probably learned it the same way themselves from some other teacher back when they were younger. And though I don't have a lightning round this time, I thought it would be fun to bring in just one somewhat silly comment. I couldn't resist. This one from Anna Shenanigans, the aptly named Anna Shenanigans, who says, I think it should be graded on how many blushies the person added. More blushies equals higher grade. There you go, people. We solved the problem. To think all these years our teachers have been wasting their time. All they had to do was count the number of blushies to determine the grade. Well, folks, that kind of brings us to the end of this video, and I'm pleased to say that we did this all in one take. 26 minutes and 48 seconds of video time I see on the monitor here, and that means it is high time to wind this video down. Thank you so much for all the comments you left. I really did enjoy reading them, and I'm kind of proud of these topic videos, I must say. It's to my mind YouTube at its best. It's it's intellectual. It's we're learning something here, and they might not get the best views. I might not get as many views on these videos as I do on other ones, but I do think that they're important, and I plan to continue doing them. But let's go ahead and wind this one down. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I really hope you found it helpful, and I'll be back with another one real soon.